Okay, for today's agenda, I'll share a little bit about myself, and then I'll share a little bit about rezStream. Then, of course, we'll go through the key insights and strategies, the meat and potato for what you guys are here for. I'll give two examples of clients that have seen success with those paid ads, and then we'll just do a little recap of the main takeaways and a special offer at the end as well. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Holly Hufford. I'm the digital marketing manager here for the digital services marketing team here at rezStream. And I've been here at rezStream for a little over 4 years. A little bit about myself. I love to go camping with my dog and my husband. My favorite marketing tactic is email campaigns, and I've done webinars on that before if you guys are interested. And then recently, I've decided if I could travel anywhere in the world, I would travel somewhere with puffins. So I don't know if that's Iceland or Alaska, but that is definitely on my bucket list. A little bit about rezStream for those of you that don't know. Our current team is about 25 caring and passionate individuals, and we always consider ourselves an extension of your team. Our goal is to work with you to create easier ways for you to manage your business and improve your ability to increase overall revenue. Of course, y'all are the experts in hospitality, and we don't expect you to be the experts in marketing, for example, with this webinar. So we just want to be able to help you as much as possible. The rezStream slogan is Better Lodging Simplified, and since 2005, we've partnered with small to medium-sized independent lodging properties across the United States to ensure our technology solutions and team empower you to achieve your goals. So you might be asking, what sets us apart from the rest? Our four uniques compared to our competitors is we have a suite of lodging solutions, so we offer it all. We're a one-stop shop. We offer the PMS, the booking engine, the website, as well as marketing. We have in-house customer service that is US-based and responds very quickly. And then our services are easy to use for a great value. Okay, like I said, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what you're here for, which is Paid Ads 101, how guests can find, click, and book. If you've been in any of my webinars before, you would know that I love polls to ensure that people are engaged. I only have two today, and we're starting off with one, so no worries, I won't overwhelm you. But we're going to start with this first question, which is, do you currently use paid ads for your lodging business? The options are yes, you currently do, no, we never have, or 3, no, but we used to run ads. And then I'll let that run for maybe 30 more seconds so we can get as many answers as possible, and I'll share the results after. Just about 5 more seconds. Okay, I'll go ahead and share these results. So it looks like about 45% of you say yes, we currently have ads. 27% say no, we've never run ads. And 27% said no, but we used to. And so I think this is a really beautiful split for people that maybe are running ads but would want to know a little bit more, people that have never used ads. And then honestly, I would love to know why certain people used to run ads and they don't anymore, whether that be shared in the chat or you can email me directly later. I just love that insight. Okay, this is Paid Ads 101. This is the basics. This is not me showing you how to set up ad campaigns. This is to give you insight on mainly what the overarching goal is, what certain ads look like for you on the back end, what they'll look for your potential clientele. I feel as a marketing manager, a lot of times my clients are asking me, can you show me exactly where my ad's going to show up? Can you tell me what it looks like? How much control do I have of what the ad looks like? And why do I need paid ads if I'm already paying for SEO services? And even if you're not paying for SEO services, why would you need paid ads when you can show up organically? So this is going to give that insight. The two main paid ad platforms that I'm going to be talking about today are Google Ads and Microsoft Ads. However, there's other paid platforms. Social media does paid ads, TripAdvisor does paid ads, OTAs have paid ads. The reason we're going to focus on these two main platforms is because the amount of traffic that they get. First is Google. Google sees over 3 trillion searches every year, and they take up 90% of the global search engine market. And then we have the Microsoft ecosystem, which is Yahoo and Bing. They get 500 billion searches a year, which is about 6% of the global market. What's left with that 4% is shared among all other small search engines like DuckDuckGo, I think has 1 to 2% of the search engine market. And then the other 2 to 3% is split up among a bunch of just random small search engines. And this is worldwide data, so there might be small search engines in other countries that we've never heard of. I do just want to say that we don't want to get this confused with browsers. So examples of browsers are Edge, Chrome, Safari, Firefox. Edge is a Microsoft product, so if you log in there, it's going to default you to use Yahoo or Bing. If you're on Chrome or Safari, it might default you to Google as an example. So based on those stats that I shared with you, you might be thinking to yourself, should I only use Google Ads if Google Ads has 90% of the traffic worldwide? It's 520% increased searches compared to the Microsoft ecosystem of Yahoo and Bing. I would say no, as the short answer, to not just use Google Ads in that capacity, because more traffic also means more competition. Google Ads has its benefit, and that's where majority of the traffic is, so it's amazing for visibility. But Microsoft is great because there's less competition, therefore there's a lower cost per click, which we can talk about a little bit later. Overall, the general thing, like I said, the short answer would be I'd recommend advertising on both platforms for those 2 different reasons that I outlined. However, there's a caveat. There's no black and white rules in marketing ever. The Microsoft ecosystem often has an older audience. So if your property is exclusively for young people, it might not be worth it. If you're in the middle of downtown Phoenix, Arizona, and you just get bachelorette trips, I don't see any reason for you to advertise on Microsoft because 20-something, 30-something-year-old women don't go on Bing or Microsoft that often. So you might be asking yourself, how do I know if it's worth it to run on Microsoft Ads? Because again, I'm not saying count this one out, but it might not be for everybody. So what I would do is check your organic traffic and bookings, because that will give you a really good idea on how well you might perform if you were to take advantage of paid ads. So this is a client I just pulled 5 months, so the middle of January until now. They're a property based in Hawaii. And as you can see here, the Google organic channel does have that largest amount of traffic, which is expected, I would say. And then followed by Bing and Yahoo. You can see 6,113 people found them organically through Google. And then if we add these 2 numbers up, that's how many people found them through Microsoft. We can see right here how many purchases. So 62 bookings came from the Google organic platform. And then we saw 23 bookings come through that Microsoft ecosystem. So you could see $153,000 came through Google. And then we have the dollar amounts for the Microsoft ecosystem. And then I included DuckDuckGo in this screenshot as well to show how few people are actually using that platform. So we saw 108 people, no bookings. So then no bookings obviously mean no revenue. Based on this, I would recommend for this client to take advantage of Microsoft Ads because they are seeing 23 bookings out of 85 for that Microsoft ecosystem channel. They're based in Maui, like I said. The price per night is over $400, so that's not just for some young person right out of college that needs to build their revenue streams and their savings account. A lot of retirees come here, but this is a good way to figure out if it's right for you. Now, this is a screenshot of Google Analytics, and my PSA today is if you do not have a Google Analytics account, you need one. A lot of times when clients come to my marketing team, they might have a Google Analytics account set up for traffic, for sessions. That's amazing. That's one good place to start. However, at the end of the day, we need to be able to track your bookings and your revenue, because if we have 7,000 people visiting your website and nobody books, there's a problem, right? And so before anything, honestly, I would have you set up a Google Analytics account. Make sure that we have the traffic and the bookings and the revenue, and that'll give us a good idea if Microsoft Ads is good for you. Now, jumping a little bit to budget, our best practice is to start with a minimum of $150 a month on each platform. Now, you can have multiple ad campaign types running. If you have 3 different ad types running, you could go, that's fine. Of course, the more money, the better, with a caveat, which I'll get to later. But anything less than $150 per platform just doesn't give the platform a strong enough chance to see that strong ROI. So I have some really small flow charts over here. Do I have at least $150 a month to spend on a paid ad campaign? If the answer is yes, determine if you should only advertise on Google, and then also take a look at your Google Analytics to see if Microsoft too. And of course, if you're going to run both of them, you would need $150 each at that $300. Then, if you have a decent flow of traffic and you want to test out Microsoft ads, I would say run it for at least 3 months. Speaking of timeline, our best practice is to run ads for a minimum of 90 days before shutting them off. The reason being is there are learning periods, especially with the increase in AI. With machine learning, the Google ads can learn more about bids, which means the price of the cost per click, which we'll talk about a little bit later. What kind of audiences they need to show you, what times of day, what days of the week, and what seasonality is involved, and then what devices. So are they going to show up more on mobile, tablet, desktop, YouTube TV, that sort of thing. There's also a bit of a conversion lag. Sometimes people are not going to book the first time that they click on your ad. It might take them 2, 3, 7 days to come back. And if you only run your ads for 6 days and don't see any bookings and you're like, this is a waste of money and turn it off, you could be missing out on that machine learning and that conversion lag. And then more statistics help you make a better educated decision. Okay, I know we've gone through quite a bit in a short amount of time, but this is a Midway checkpoint checklist. You can take a picture of this. A spreadsheet will be sent to everybody after the fact. So if you don't want to take a picture or write down the notes, you can just check it out later. But this is how I would know if I'm ready to run ad campaigns. So 1, my property has a Google Analytics account that has traffic tracking, booking tracking, and revenue tracking. Once that's done, check. I would like to increase bookings. If you're already full, there's no point in paying for paid ads because you'll just be too full. But if you'd like to increase bookings, which wouldn't we all? Check. You have at least $150 to spend on Google Ads campaign. Check. I haven't explicitly said this, but if you can't tell, if you only have $150 to spend, I would recommend starting with a Google Ads campaign. And then once that's successful, if you have additional money to spend, then you could go to Microsoft Ads. I really wouldn't recommend anybody just starting with Microsoft Ads without running a Google Ads campaign for a variety of reasons. And if anybody wants to know why, we can go through those details at the very end. I'd be more than happy to walk through those specifics. But if you've determined you want to run on Microsoft too, make sure you have $150 at minimum to spend. And then last, have the patience to let the ads run for 90 days. I guess going back to this budget thing, I just want to say this before I forget. One of the biggest mistakes that I see with Google Ads specifically when potential marketing clients come to our sales team and ask if we should manage the ads is sometimes they're actually spending way too much money on Google Ads. And what I mean by that is the Google Ads support team will reach out and just say, you need to increase your budget to the point where you're spending over $1,000 a month, but you're not seeing strong ROI. We have seen great success with $150 a month, $200, $300 because we would want to have it highly optimized. So I had a client come, I think in September, maybe November. So they've been with us for a couple of months now, obviously. And I think they were spending $2,000 a month. They had $1,000 for a Performance Max ad and $1,000 for a search ad, which we'll talk about what that means here in a second. And they didn't have revenue tracking set up on their Google Analytics, so they had no idea what their ROI was. So of course we got that set up for them, and the ROI was negative. They were spending more than $2,000 a month and not getting $2,000 in bookings. Now, granted, their price per night is really low. I think it's $100 and some odd dollars. So they would have to book a lot of nights to get over that $2,000. So keep that in mind for what your property is based on your price per night, right? But we decreased their budget to $200 a month, and they started getting more bookings now than they did before. And then the ROI is even exponentially better considering we were only spending $200 instead of that $2,000 because we optimized it for our best practice. So I know I said minimum 150, the more the better. I don't mean throw every single dollar you have left over into Google Ads, because more money doesn't always mean better. You need a good optimized paid ad. Okay, poll number 2. I told you it was coming. Let me run question number 2. Question number 2 is, how familiar are you with different campaign types? I left it general on purpose. So do you know a lot about different campaign types? Do you know some, or you have no idea what I'm talking about? And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's totally fine. I can see 3 minutes ago, somebody in the chat asked, on Google, are they standard ads or Google hotel ads? In general, I've just been talking about Google ads in general. I've never heard anybody refer to anything as a standard ad. So if you want to elaborate more on that, be my guest. But right now, when we talk about campaigns, we'll go through different kinds of ad types. So you'll understand what I mean for Google hotel ads. You might mean search ads as standard. That's the most common. So hopefully that answers your question. Feel free to elaborate if I didn't answer your question specifically. Okay, this has been running a little bit over a minute, so we'll end this poll and I'll share these results with you. So we got 50-50. 50% said you know some on campaign types, and 50% said I have no idea what you're talking about, which is amazing. That means you're in the right place. That means you should pay attention to everything I have to say. And I'm kind of glad nobody knows a lot, because then you'll at least get something out of this. Okay, perfect. The person in the chat said that answers my question. So glad to hear. And then once I go through the different ad types, just additional questions might come up. Feel free to ask those in the chat. Okay, so the main campaign types that we believe work best for independent lodging properties are search ads, performance max ads, and Google hotel ads. There are a lot of other ad options out there. So if you fall down a rabbit hole of paid ads, you might get overwhelmed, because there's display ads and shopping ads and AI max ads, and it's overwhelming. So let's just stick with what I believe will work best for you, which are search ads, performance max ads, and Google hotel ads, but they all do something a little bit different. Starting with search ads, these are probably the thing that you would think of if I asked you to describe a Google ad to me. Within the search ads that we run, we have 2 main campaign segments that we choose to do, one being branded ads and one being non-branded ads. Now, I know when we were advertising this webinar, one of the things that I promised that you would learn is, where do the ads appear? So here's an example of where search ads would appear. I typed in Google hotels near me. I blurred this out because this is not a search ad, but these top 3 links are search ads under the sponsored section. So again, that's usually probably what people think of when they think of just general Google ads, in that it's going to be those top links before the organic links. Now, you guys might not, I know I talked about organic links. That just means somebody that finds you on your regular link URL. You don't spend any money. There's no advertising involved. If there's any questions on that, feel free to ask them in the chat. Okay, now going into each of those campaign types specifically. First is non-branded. So an example of a non-branded ad would be vacation home in Seattle, Washington. This is mainly utilizing your property type. So in this example, it's a vacation home, but fill in the blank for how it fits for your independent lodging property. So whether that be hotels in, and then fill in the blank for your geo-targeted term. Now, the reason that we want geo-targeted terms is so that way people are going to be as specific as possible. We want the ad to show up for those specific searches. That way you're not competing. What I would not recommend is hotels in Washington. Majority of the time when somebody knows that they want to visit that area, they've narrowed it down to the area. Like I said, these ads are great for people that know they want to stay in your area, but they've not heard about you specifically. But yeah, to bid on a keyword called hotels in Washington is wild, because that's a massive state and you're not going to win any bids on that. The con, quote unquote of this is there is a lot of competition because there are other properties as well as OTAs bidding on these keywords. So you can see Trivago, Vrbo, Booking.com, Airbnb, they all want their slice of the pie. But there's pros and cons to every ad. So like I said, this is what I think is best. I still think you should take advantage. Don't take that con too much to heart. The other type that we have underneath the search ads are branded ads, and these utilize your brand name, plus sometimes a geo-targeted term. Branded ad types are great for people who have heard about your property or at least know some part of your brand name. So the example that I put in was Campfire Bay. That is one of our marketing clients, except that's not their full property name. But as you can see here, under sponsored results, we have Campfire Bay Resort. That is their full property name. However, Google was suggesting, is this what you were talking about? And it shows up this sponsored ad. So that's really great because I didn't know the full name, but the ad still shows up. It knew what I was talking about. Going into that a little bit more, one of the questions, like I said, that I get asked all of the time that I knew we advertised that I would answer is, why do I need branded search ads if I'm going to show up organically? Now, again, organic links are just your regular links that show up in Google or other search engines that you don't pay for. And the reason being is because if I type in, and this is just one example, Campfire Bay, that is not the property name. So if we did not pay for these sponsored ads for this client, Campfire Bay, the actual brand, where their literal brand name is Campfire Bay, they are paying for the branded sponsored placements here. And then we have their organic link here. You would not have that placement until at least third on the list, which in this case, Campfire Bay Resort is fourth on the list, but they're taking the first spot. So we have the branded, which is one, the branded Campfire Way one, the organic one, and then they're fourth. So wouldn't you rather show up first on the list rather than fourth on the list? People's attention span's 2 seconds long. And so we want to make sure that they get to the right place at the right time. Another reason why you would want branded search ads is oftentimes if you are listed on OTAs, you are more likely going to want to have direct bookings because you don't have to pay those crazy commissions. There's good reasons for OTAs, but you could be competing with yourself. So somebody in the chat said the non-branded ads just direct people to OTAs. How was that an ad for me? Maybe I pulled a bad screenshot, so sorry if that is confusing. If you're using keywords that are non-branded, that are targeted, your exact property link will be in that section, which is why you'd want to be there to not direct people to the OTAs. Let me know if that answers your question or not. Okay, so that's the main details on search ads. We can move on to different ad types. Now, I want to make it clear that going forward, I will most likely be using Google Ads verbiage and Google Ads screenshots like I already have been, unless I specifically say that Microsoft has a different approach than Google. When I talk about Google, it also probably means Microsoft Ads. But again, if somebody's never used ads, I would recommend Google first. This is Paid Ads Basics 101. But truly, that's just to save time. So I don't have to say Google Ads and Microsoft Ads every single time. And that way you don't see double screenshots of almost the exact same thing every time. If anybody has any questions about that, feel free to throw those in the chat. Okay, Performance Max ads for Google and Microsoft are a little bit different, so I do have a slide specifically for that, but we can start with Google Microsoft ads. So this is a different ad type. What's really cool about this is these are great for retargeting. Now, what that means is they can show up in a variety of locations, and all these ads we're talking about are cost per click ads. So if somebody looks at your ad but does not click, you do not pay. That is amazing for brand awareness, right? So for Performance Max, they can show up as search ads. We already went through what search ads look like and where they display. So that's one place they show up. Another place is Google Hotels for shopping and maps. We'll talk about those specifically after Performance Max, but just keep that in mind. If you pay for Performance Max ads, they can show up in search ads, Google Hotel ads. They can also show up as a YouTube ad in the display network, which is like banners, and then Gmail. What's also great about this is they can use branded or non-branded keywords, which essentially means through machine learning, the ads will generate multiple different types of ads and show exactly what they think is best for that specific searcher. So if in the past, your potential client is most likely to click a banner ad, your property will show up as a banner ad. If they're more likely to click a search ad, they'll show up as a search ad, right? Sure, maybe it'll show the same ad twice, but it can filter through 20 different photos, 20 different headlines, 20 different descriptions, which we'll talk about in a second, sorry. But that's really great because it can update itself all the time and show the best option for your guest. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Now, like I said, Microsoft Performance Max ads are a little bit different in that Google owns YouTube, so you're not going to show up in a YouTube ad with Microsoft. Google also owns Gmail, so you're not going to have your Microsoft ad show up in Gmail, but Microsoft owns Outlook, AOL, and Yahoo, so it shows up in that same way. Search ads on Yahoo and Bing, and then Maps on Microsoft Maps. So very similar in that it can use different keywords. It can be very customized for the user, but just wanted to make it clear, maybe specifically YouTube and Gmail is specific for Google ads, and then like Outlook, AOL, Yahoo, that sort of thing is specific for Microsoft ads, which is another thing. A lot of older clientele have some of these older email platforms that came out when emails first came around, and so they might see the banner ads or whatever in AOL or Yahoo compared to the younger people. I feel like they only have Gmail. Okay, let's see. So we've already talked about what search ad looks like. We're going to go over Google Hotel ads here shortly, but I just wanted to give examples of what other areas they can look like. Because again, I get asked all the time, what do my ads look like and where do they show up? So for the Google Performance Max ads, you can show up on YouTube. My recommendation is to upload videos if you have videos of the property. We have seen properties that upload videos do way better than the alternative, where Google Ads will make a slideshow of your photos. Now, that's not bad. It'll still help get visibility, but the video is a lot better. So with this example, here was one of the ads. It's not for a specific property, but we can see this little banner right here. It says shop now. We would customize it to say book now or book online. And then the link could either go to your homepage or your booking engine or your accommodations page, whatever customization you would like. Another example are banner ads. So here's one at the bottom for Vrbo. So many of my ads are vacation related just because of the industry that we work in. And then we also have an internet ad up here in the corner. And then we have mail ads. So here's a screenshot from Outlook where we have the ad on the right-hand side, or in Gmail. Not sure if you guys ever see these ads embedded in. It's supposed to trick you into think it's an email from whatever business, but then you just click on it. I really Performance Max ads in that, like I said, they're great for retargeting, but again, because they use the non-branded and the branded, a lot of times your system is just going to know you want to go on vacation in Hawaii, but you don't really know where. Maybe, Maui, like you've settled down to the islands. It's going to say, oh, when you check your email, you'll see this. When you're in Google, you'll see that. When you read your news article, you'll see that sort of thing, that sort of thing. Whereas search ads, as amazing as they are, and I love them for what they do, you have to be actively searching for a brand or a non-brand. Okay, in the chat, I have a question that says, for the banner ads, does the property submit designed ads in various sizes? Or do you upload content / images and Google creates them? You can do both. There are ad types that are specifically for banners. Those are part of the display network or display ads as an example. And when you do that, or when you take advantage of Performance Max, you can take either approach that you want. You can either be very specific and create something visual like this, or you can just let Google create them, whatever you prefer. Let me know, Jennifer, if that answers your question. And I think I might have another question. Okay, Bob says, can you elaborate on video requirements? So I'm assuming this is for YouTube ads. So we'll just go back to that slide. Do you need full videos with titling, multiple shots, or do you just want 15 to 30-second clips? Yes. So oftentimes Google, same thing, has two different kinds of ads. So the one that I have an example of here is a non-skippable ad. So I do not have a button on the bottom right here that says skip this ad. That would be a short ad that is probably 10 to 15 seconds. And that's really great for maybe a drone shot of your property. And you could add titling on it, something as stay at Stone Creek Lodge or whatever you want. You could have an overlay of audio. But again, we've also seen success with just general photos, general overlay, and there's not any titling. It's hard to answer this question in a sense, Bob, in that a lot of the properties that we do marketing for don't have any videos at all. So I'm like, in my personal opinion, you should at least have one video. And if that is going to take a lot of effort, take one on your cell phone, take a panoramic video of your property and upload it and call it a day. And I'd rather have that than the slideshow because that's going to do better. But if you want to go above and beyond and have a professional videographer or lay over text or use a voiceover, go for it. Anything that you feel like is more elaborate is going to get you to that next level. But I don't want to overwhelm anyone and say, you need the titling, you need the professional video, you need the voiceover, because then they're not going to do anything at all and they're not going to upload anything. And then they're going to have to rely on Google's slideshow. And then the second part of that question is there's also skippable ads on YouTube. And those ones are longer. Those ones can be, I think, up to 3 minutes, 10 minutes. I've been seeing some crazy ads, but those ones you can usually skip after 15 to 30 seconds. So you can make it longer and it'll be a skippable ad, but I would say make the most important part of your ad at the beginning because chances are they're going to watch the main 15 to 30 seconds and then click skip. No, we don't want it to get completely terrible and wrong, like after that 30 seconds in case somebody does sit there and watch the whole ad. But don't leave your best part of the video a minute and a half in because majority of people aren't going to see that. But every single ad, no matter what type, will have this button here with your brand name, your brand logo, your brand link, and then a call to action, which we would have book now or book online. Let me know, Bob, if you have any other questions there. You're welcome. Okay. Let's see. I already went over this. Why Performance Max is great for retargeting. One, you only get charged when someone clicks. You're going to see in a lot of those different places. And here's a good visual. It can be a YouTube ad, they can be a search ad, they can show up on Google Maps, which is part of Google Hotels, which is why I haven't specifically said that. Display, these are going to be those banners that Jennifer was asking about. And then the mail. Also, I don't know about you guys, but my allergies have been so bad recently, like since Saturday. I don't know what kind of pollen's in the air, but I need a sip of water because my sinuses are dry. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about cost per click because I mentioned in an earlier slide that we'd get more to that later. For the ads, you will set a monthly budget. Now, let's say you decide $300 or $150, whatever you want it to be. That is going to be divided by the number of days in the month. So if an average month has 30 days, your budget for that day will be $10. Once that $10 is spent, your ads will no longer run for that day, but starting the next day, they will run again. We like this approach because the other approach, which I don't recommend, but technically you can do on Google Ads, is you set a budget of $300 and maybe by the 10th, 12th, 13th of the month, your whole budget's gone and then you don't have any ads in the second half of the month. That's not my preference. I'd rather just miss a few people at the end of the day every day rather than miss a whole 2 weeks of people, right? I don't really go into this because, again, this is the basics, but you can set what hours you want your ads to show. So if you only want them to show from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. to get that really the best kind of clientele, that is my recommendation. But you might not want to miss out on the people that doom scroll at 3 in the morning. It's hard to say. But again, it kind of just depends on what your budget is and how, if you have a large budget, to be a little bit more lenient. If you want to get the really good quality, we'd want to set more parameters on what those times of days are. But anyway, that could be a whole different webinar. Okay, so when you have a lot of competition, there's a higher cost per click because each keyword that you add in the back end, either branded or non-branded or a combo for Performance Max, has a price to it. If you have less competition, there's lower cost per click. If there are 100 businesses bidding on the keyword hotels in Estes Park, you are all competing, and so the price will go up. If you're the only business bidding on the keyword Stone Creek Lodge in Mount Rainier, it's going to be a lot cheaper. However, some of your competitors might also be competing on your branded keywords because they want to show up above you. So you might not be the only one, that your next door neighbors might be bidding on your keyword. And or if you're on the OTAs, they also could be bidding on that keyword. If you're not on OTAs, they're probably not. They will be definitely on the non-branded, but that shouldn't be reason enough why you don't get on the OTAs. I feel like I definitely need to do a webinar on the pros and the cons of OTAs because in a way it kind of sounds like I'm dogging on them because they're taking the paid ads, but they're really good for what they're good at. But there's high commissions and all the things. Anyway, like I've said before, if people see your ad but don't click, you don't pay. And I want to make it clear that Google doesn't just hike up the price specifically only on the amount of businesses that are bidding on the keyword. And the price is not the exact same price for everybody. So if I have property A in Estes Park and property B in Estes Park, and they're both bidding on the same keyword, one of the things that really plays into the cost of your bid is high quality assets within the ads, as well as high quality landing pages. So if your ads are highly optimized with high quality photos, headlines, descriptions, callouts, site links, etc., and your website is beautiful, optimized for SEO, you are more likely to get a lower a lower bid for that keyword compared to your competitors, especially in that if it's higher quality, they're more likely to book with you as well, rather than sending people on a random goose chase. So that's another reason why I would recommend paying a company like us to manage your paid ads and or your SEO, because your SEO in hand helps your Google ads. Okay, so I know I just threw a ton of these words out and you're probably like, wow, she's talking way too fast. I have no idea what she just said. Here's your checklist. Again, this is not in depth on how to set up ads, but to make sure you have good ads, you need good photos. If you're going to take advantage of Performance Max, you need videos. You're going to have your landing URL, which is usually your homepage, your booking engine, your accommodations overview page. Headlines, which just an overall come stay at Executive Keys condominiums, that sort of thing. Headlines would be descriptions, descriptions would be like descriptions of your property, come book a stay, and we have hot tubs and a game room. Describe the best parts of your property that make you stand out compared to your competitors. Site links would be specific links to pages. So this is going to take me a second, but I think it'd be good to show. So right here, this is the main ad, and then these here are site links. So we have a link to the accommodations page, a link to the contact us page, the booking engine, the about us page, the accommodations page, specific, those cabins, that sort of thing, right? So we have the headline, which is Campfire Bay Resort in MN, because MN is completely different than Minnesota in the Google Ads keyword world. Then we have a description. So we have long ones and short ones, and then on-site spa, that's super short. That's what would be considered a call out. So an example of that would be like air conditioning or free parking or free Wi-Fi or whatever is a quick little call out, and then your phone number as well. A little bit of a shameless plug. About a year ago, I did a webinar completely on Google Performance Max campaigns. And in that webinar, I walked you through exactly how to set up the ad campaign, how to have it fully optimized. So if you would like that, I would say go to rezstream.com/education/webinars, or just go to rezstream.com, click this education button. You'll see the webinars and go about 6 down and watch that webinar, because that'll tell you exactly how to set up these paid ads. Okay, now we're moving on to Google Hotel ads, and I have about 15 minutes left, including Q&A. So there are some rules about Google Hotel ads, as well as showing up for Google Hotel organic links. Now, usually you'll know if you show up for the Google Hotel organic links before you even want the ads, but both to show up anywhere in the Google Hotel world. 1, you need to have a front desk, a main point of contact for somebody to check in. 2, you need a Google business profile on Google. 3, you need one address. So unfortunately, this kind of excludes a lot of vacation homes, because we have vacation homes where they're one brand, but there's no check-in. You just do touchless checkout, and they have addresses all over Colorado. Unfortunately, those kinds of properties do not work with Google Hotels at this time. A lot of people have been asking, so maybe in the future, but as of, what is today? June 24th, that is not a capability. If you are a rezStream client, which I know not everybody that watches these webinars are, you'll need an ultimate or professional PMS booking engine plan. And then not needed, but beneficial, have your direct rates be lower than the OTAs. Does a virtual front desk count? I would say usually yes, but Google is picky and goes on case by case basis. But if you have one check-in location where when I Google a property and I arrive right, that is where I'm going, regardless if there's, I don't know, 50 cabins, but they're all right there, you should qualify. So if you have any specific questions, reach out to us and we can do some digging for you. Let me know if that didn't answer your question. Now, I did want to have a call out. As if you use Performance Max campaigns, one of the places they can show up is in Google Hotel Ads. Now, let's say you don't qualify for every single one of these bullet points. Maybe you're on our standard PMS plan. Maybe you are a vacation rental and you don't have a front desk or whatever. You can still use Performance Max ads. They just won't show up in the Google Hotels. They'll just show up as the banner, the Gmail, the YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're like, I don't have the ultimate, so I'm not going to pay attention, you don't have to pay attention to Google Hotels, but you can still use Performance Max. Okay. Now, there's not as much control with Google Hotel ads. A couple slides ago, we were talking about all these things you need for search ads and Performance Max. You don't really get to do that with Google Hotels. They're going to pull information from your Google business profile. That's where they're going to find your brand name. That's where they're going to find your links, your images, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure your Google business profile is optimized because that's where the information is being pulled up from. You don't get to write your own descriptions and your own headlines and then narrate exactly what you want to highlight. So make sure everything's good. Google Hotel ads also appear in a variety of places, and I have screenshots of examples. And then, of course, they can appear when you pay for Performance Max ads. We will have clients that will come to us and they'll start maybe with search ads and then Google Hotel ads, and then after a while they decide they want to move to Performance Max. Oftentimes we'll just shut off that Google Hotel ad campaign because it can show up in Google Hotels. But we also have clients that are running Performance Max ads in Google Hotels because they always want to be there, especially if they're on the OTAs. Here's one example. So we're going to look for this little sponsored section here. Here we have Murphy's River Lodge, and their direct booking rate is $179, which is more preferable to these OTAs. So you're more likely going to click on your site and book with you directly. If you don't pay for Google Hotel ads, but you're on a Google Hotel free booking link, which is included if you have the ultimate or professional PMS, I forgot the name of the professional. Anyway, you can show up under this all options tab here. If you do not have OTAs, you might be thinking, I don't need to show up in the sponsored section because I'm not competing with Booking.com and Expedia. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but there's other places that Google Hotel ads can appear that I still think it's worthwhile, even if you're not on the OTAs. This is a screenshot I included earlier, but I blurred this section out. I was talking about the sponsored placements, but these right here is another way to show up under Google Hotels. So there's that. And again, this has nothing to do with OTAs, so you could just show up there. Another example is people will go to google.com/travel, and there's this sponsored section here where there's a carousel of people who are paying to be here, as well as, I know it's a little bit small, so I apologize, these little prices on the map, and I can click on them. There will be a sponsored button here. So it's more enticing. It'll be a little bit more bold. So people are more likely to click on that one as opposed to somebody who's not paying. And again, this has nothing to do with OTAs. It's more against UV or competitors. So maybe if on a map you don't have anyone near you and you're not on OTAs, maybe this wouldn't be a good option for you because on the map, if you're the only one in a section. But this is a screenshot of Nashville, Tennessee, and there's a lot of properties in Nashville. So there we go. Okay, let me see how much time. We have 9 minutes. I decided to pull examples of a branded ad campaign as well as a non-branded ad campaign for the real world success. If we have time and people are interested, I could pull up examples of Performance Max in Google Hotels as well. The reason I wanted to I'll answer that question in the chat in a second. So I see you. Let me just finish this thought. The reason I wanted to pull examples of branded and non-branded ad campaigns is because I hear so often, I don't need to pay for paid campaigns because I already am paying for SEO or because the ad's already going to show up organically below. And I think that you can all see that Performance Max is very diverse, as well as Google Hotel Ads is very diverse in that you can show up as a search ad or an infographic ad or in the map or under the travel tab and or YouTube for Performance Max, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And the examples I have, one, branded in a little less than 4 months. So I think that this client launched on March 5th, if I do believe, through yesterday. They've spent $362.42. They've seen 18 bookings and $12,650 in revenue. For this non-branded client, they launched March 12th, I think. And as it's been a little 2 weeks past that, so this is March 12th through yesterday. This property spent $203.48. They've seen 5 bookings and brought in $6,200 in revenue. Now, to me, this is enticing and this would encourage me to want to book, or excuse me, take advantage of paid ads. If I handed somebody $200 and they handed me $6,000, I would say, yes, please. If I handed someone $362 and they handed me $12,650, again, yes, please. The ROI on this is amazing and positive and beautiful. And when these properties started taking advantage of branded and non-branded ad campaigns, these are 2 different properties, 2 different areas, 2 different property types, whatever. We can have examples out the wazoo. We have so many clients on paid ads. Their organic traffic did not decrease. Their organic bookings did not decrease just because that's different. I see so many questions in the chat. I'll get to you guys in a second. I'm just going to wrap this up so we have a whole good, 5 minutes for Q&A. So the 3 things we promised to cover when advertising is 1, what do your ads look like? I included lots of screenshots of what they look like. 2, where can guests find your ads? I included a lot of screenshots of that. And then 3, why branded ads are important even with organic links. So hopefully you guys feel like those 3 questions were answered. Again, you'll get a copy of this afterwards. The 3 main things to remember is 1, wait it out. Let your ads run for at least 90 days to see the full effect. Ensure you have a strong budget of at least $150 to give it a strong chance. And then determine if Microsoft's meant for you. It's not meant for everybody, every property. I'm just going to go through this offer really quick. If you're not a marketing client, we're offering, instead of usually $135 a month for Performance Max, $100 setup monthly fee. This doesn't include the ad budget. And then for Google Hotel ads, again, this is if you're on Ultimate or Professional. Usually this is $100 a month. We're offering it for $50 a month. If you're a standard user on our PMS and you would like to test out the Google Hotels free booking link, which would have you show up on that right-hand panel, I would go back, but I want to be able to answer these questions in time. We can give you a 30-day free trial of that. And then in the PMS, there's a way for us to track that as a source. So if you go into reports, usually you'll see PMS. And then I would say in your case, probably Booking Engine, because if you're on standard, you probably don't have any OTAs. But anyway, we can see exactly how many people booked through that. So contact us before the end of the week if you want to claim any of these offers. And then if you have any questions or you want to take advantage of those offers or anything else, feel free to email me at holly.hufford@rezstream.com or sales@rezstream.com. Okay, we have 5 minutes to answer some of these questions in the chat. One of the questions I see, what are the price ranges per click for cost per click? So to answer that question, for independent lodging properties, I've seen anything as low as 2 cents if they're not on OTAs and they're in the middle of nowhere and no one else is bidding on those keywords, all the way up to $6 or $7 if it's a very highly coveted keyword. So it really just depends. And then we do marketing for rezStream, and I know the team that does that says when they do some of their keywords bidding, each keyword is $37. Now, I've never ever seen an independent lodging keyword cost $37, but I just want to throw that out there. As every single department and in the world of marketing is different. So if you're going to take this information and throw it at your other business, don't be like, oh, there's only $7 max. It just depends. So let me know if you have any more questions on that. Next question, how do these play into AI searches? Google has come out and said that if you pay for Performance Max or search ads, you sometimes can appear in those AI overviews on Google. However, I would say that those are not the claim to fame for these ad types, in that oftentimes when people are searching and they get an answer from an AI overview, it is for an informational search, not necessarily an action search. In that, if I were to type something along the lines of, does Stone Creek Lodge at Mount Rainier have air conditioning? Google might crawl all this information and see that as a call out and come back and say, yes, Stone Creek Lodge at Mount Rainier has air conditioning, which honestly, I don't even know if they do on the top of my head, but whatever. Then you've already completed what you were searching and you will move on. So the odds of you clicking on, Bob says they do, the odds of you clicking on that is pretty low because you're already done with what you were trying to seek out. But again, Bob didn't pay for that click if that's what he would appear in because they didn't click on the ad. It just gave them that information. So oftentimes, if you need your ad to show up in AI reviews, it can. It's just not as likely, and it's harder to track if people just look at it and don't click. So hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if that doesn't for AI searches. Okay, the next question is, if you are not a user of the rezStream PMS, can you still have rezStream manage your paid search and or SEO? So those are two different questions, the way I interpret it in a way. If you don't use our PMS or our website, we can still do marketing services for you. We can do paid ads, we can do SEO, we can do email marketing, we can do all of it. You don't have to use 2 or 3 of our services. However, if you use multiple of our services, you'll get a bundled discount, but that shouldn't stop you. But the other thought I was going to have that's a bit of a caveat is if you use somebody else's PMS, we cannot hook you up to our Google Hotels integration. So you wouldn't be able to take advantage of Google Hotel ads unless you came to our PMS. But all of our other marketing services, which that's such a small drop in the bucket compared to everything else that we offer, like email remarketing and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, we would love to have you even if you don't use our PMS. Let me know if anyone else has any questions about that. Let's see, we have about 1 minute, and I have one more question in the chat, which is how long does it take to get you guys, have you guys get an ad campaign up and running? Honestly, I would say it depends on how much back work you already have done. If you already have a Google Analytics account, it's a lot faster for us to get things moving. If you have good photos, good content on your website, it's really quick for us to get those up and running within a week, truly, I would say. If you don't have a Google Analytics account, that would probably take a week. If we need to update some content on your website, that would take a week. If we need to update your Google business profile, that would take a week. So it could take potentially up to a month just if you've never done any marketing ever. But again, even after 3 weeks, it's still worth the while, in my opinion. Okay, it is 2 p.m. here in Denver, Colorado, so it is my time to go. Thank you so much, everybody who attended today's webinar. I really appreciate all the questions in the chat. I think we had 9 questions today, which is amazing. Like I said, if you have any questions or need anything from us, email me directly or email sales. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.